With Chapter 2, Retribution being less than a month away, I figure many of you are rewatching the original trailer over and over and over and over and over again, or replaying the original game in anticipation for this new game's release. No? Just me? Damn it. For those who aren't familiar with the story, or those who just need a refresher on it, you come to the right place. I'm a random nerd, and I'll be your tour guide. Get it? Tour guide? Because you're the tourist.
The tourist?
Laugh, damn it.
As I explained to you the story of The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners. It should go without saying, spoilers ahead. You have 5 seconds to stop watching this video before I start spoiling. To give some background, you play as the tourist, a notorious survivor who is immune to the zombie virus. The tourist can be either male or female in this game, but I'm just going to use he/him pronouns for simplicity. The setting is New Orleans, Louisiana, after the world as we know it has fallen, and the dead have risen in order to... You know the story, it's The Walking Dead, I don't need to explain anything. An untimely and unfortunate flood left most of the city underwater, but there's still plenty of space to set up and loot for supplies. Given the setting of New Orleans, there are many references to its culture and history, from craftable food like gumbo and jambalaya, to the real-life mystery of the unidentified New Orleans axe murderer, with a custom axe appearing in-game that is suggested to be his. Keep this reference in the back of your head for later though, because he may be important later on. He will be important later on. The game begins with the tourist arriving in New Orleans, but before we get into that, we should discuss what happens before he arrives. Before the tourist arrives in New Orleans, 2 factions are formed, the Tower and the Reclaimed. Their origins are as follows. A group of survivors decide to raid and clear out a 45-story skyscraper that was overrun by walkers. Out of the 48 that were part of the raid, only 36 survived. The skyscraper was turned into a community known as the Tower, and one of the original survivors, known as Mama, became its leader. Following its establishment, news about a safe haven spread around the city of New Orleans like wildfire, and the Tower quickly gained over 1,000 members shortly after. While the Tower was a safe haven for many, a strict set of rules was established, and anyone who dared even question them was exiled. Amongst those who were exiled was John Baptiste, or JB for short. After his exile, he took to raiding Tower supply lines, with a number of exiled Tower members joining his cause. Eventually he formed and became the leader of his own community known as the Reclaimed. Both communities have been at war ever since, but due to their smaller numbers, the Reclaimed had to resort to scare tactics such as bizarre rituals and hanging walkers up as deterrents. Sometime after both these groups were established, rumors of a military bunker full of supplies, which both groups called the Reserve, started circling, and both communities were after it. The Tower was able to uncover a key to the Reserve, but they wouldn't have it for long. May Benoit, her daughter Ambra, and her husband, who we don't have a name for, were all part of the Tower, but Mr. Benoit broke one of the rules and was executed by being forced to take the walk, in which he was marched up to the top floor of the Tower and was forced to walk off the edge of it, falling 531 feet to his death. Editor nerd here, this is wrong. He did not break one of the rules, he was framed for cannibalism. But he was still forced to take the walk, so at least that's right. Fearing the same fate, May and Ambra fled, taking with them the key to the Reserve that may be used as a bargaining chip for May in case Ambra was captured. Sometime after, May and Ambra eventually came to meet up with an old man named Henri Lafayette, and they formed their own small group known as the Exodus, which were enemies of the Tower, but not exactly friends with the Reclaimed. Their home for the time being was an old rundown bus in the middle of the graveyard, and while May and Ambra did stay with Henri for a while, eventually they left him out of fear of being found by the Tower. May and Henri struck a deal where May would scout out Tower supply caches, Ambra would draw a picture of its location, and Henri would go and steal from them. The caches contained supplies for Henri and information for May. May's ultimate goal was to free as many people from the Tower as she could. Before the tourist arrives in New Orleans, he saves Henri from a horde of walkers in the bayou just outside the city. Henri goes over mostly what I just discussed, but also reveals that he was the closest to finding the Reserve. However, this lead would not last long. A week later, the tourist arrives in New Orleans at the entrance to the graveyard. After walkers attack the boat he was in, the tourist enters the graveyard and fights through multiple walkers before coming upon Henri, hanging upside down from a tree on the verge of death. The Tower and the Reclaimed hunted him down, tortured him, and left him for dead, to make an example out of him. Henri, in his last few moments, asked the tourist to take care of the bus, as well as split the Reserve supplies with May and Ambra, and sing,
So long, waterfall. So long, waterfall.
before passing away from blood loss. The tourist makes his way to the bus, finds Henri's notes, which details about a radio station and the phrase waterfall being connected to the Reserve. The radio, however, is broken and needs some parts to get working. Henri was able to find a battery and antenna, but was missing a microphone, which he was able to locate in the Blue Mansion in the Shallows. The tourist spends the night in the bus and sends out for the Shallows to find the microphone. When the tourist arrives, he meets a young woman named Corinne, who asks the tourist to put down her husband, Ruben, who has come back to life as a walker, and bring back his wedding ring in exchange for the code to a safe full of supplies. If the tourist agrees, she gives him the key to the attic where her husband is. The tourist makes his way to the blue house and makes his way in. While in the house, the tourist is able to uncover the microphone, amongst many other supplies. He goes into the attic and takes out Ruben, taking his wedding ring and letter. In the letter, it is revealed that he killed their kids to stop them from living in this messed up world, profusely apologizing to Corinne. The tourist returns to Corinne and gives her the ring, and after a short discussion, she hands over the code to the safe. After the tourist is done in the Shallows, he returns to the graveyard and repairs the radio, tuning the dial to station 61 and saying the phrase waterfall.
What'd you just say?
A paranoid voice answers and asks the tourist questions about him, acting more and more paranoid. After a bit of chat between the two, the voice reveals that his name is Casey. The conversation is interrupted by a gate in the graveyard opening and a lantern turning on.
They coming for you?
The tourist leaves to investigate and finds the gate locked, but whoever was there left behind a clue to the tourist to get the key. The tourist makes his way through the graveyard catacombs and finds the key in a field with statues of Jasmine. He makes his way back to the gate and unlocks it. Inside the casket behind the gate, he finds a letter addressed to Henri from May and a drawing. The letter details their deal mentioned earlier, and the drawing points to a supply cache in Via Corolla. The next day, the tourist makes his way to Via Corolla to a house which is being heavily patrolled by tower members. He is able to find the cache in the fountain outside the house and seal its contents with intel from May and supplies for him. The intel reveals that May stole a key to the reserve, and the tower is after her to get it back. After making it back to the graveyard, the tourist drops off the intel to May in the coffin, turns off the lantern to signal May that the intel is there. The next day, Casey reaches out via radio and explains that he needs help. He doesn't trust the tower or Reclaimed, and states that the tourist is his only best option to help him out. In exchange for helping him, he says he will give up everything he knows about the reserve. The tourist agrees, and Casey explains that he needs a pump flow regulator. Conveniently, one was found by a tower patrol on Memorial Lane. Before heading out, the tourist checks the casket and finds a letter from May, saying that she knows Henri is dead, but is willing to work with the tourist and asks her to meet in St. Vincent's churchyard. He meets up with May in the courtyard, and she offers him the same deal she made with Henri, raiding tower caches for supplies and dropping intel off for May. The tourist accepts the deal, and May gives him a drawing pointing to a tower cache in the ward. Now, since both Casey and May have missions that the tourist can be done at the player's leisure, I'll be going through each of their scenarios separately up until the finale, starting with Casey. The tourist makes his way to Memorial Lane to find the first pump, coming across a house guard by tower troops. They tell him that it's off limits, and if he wants inside, he should talk to their leader, Jeff. Jeff is around the corner in distress. He reveals to the tourist that a group of Reclaimed kidnapped his brother Anthony and are holding him hostage in a nearby house. Jeff makes an agreement with the tourist that if he gets his brother back to him safely, he will let the tourist take anything from the house the tower is occupying. The tourist makes his way to the house with the Reclaimed troops in it, overhearing their leader berating Anthony. The tourist interrupts them and attempts to negotiate Anthony's release. The Pax leader explains that Anthony was a key part in his daughter's exile and inevitable death, and wants him killed for it. The Reclaimed make a deal with the tourist that if he kills Anthony, they'll help him raid the tower camp and leave anything left in the house for him. From here, the tourist can either choose to execute Anthony or kill the Reclaimed members, allowing him to get back to the camp safely. In either case, the tourist gains access to the house, finds the pump regulator, and heads back home. The tourist makes his way back to the bus and talks to Casey over the radio. Casey reveals that not only is the reserve real, but he's stuck inside it. The flood that left most New Orleans underwater trapped him inside the comms room of the reserve, and he needs someone to repair the pump so he can get out. The next morning, Casey helps the tourist calibrate the regulator, and the tourist heads back to the churchyard to install it. Using walker guts to disguise his scent, he weaves through a pack of walkers and installs it. A few days later, Casey reaches out again and explains that he located another pump regulator. The tourist heads to Bywater, where the pump is, and is greeted by a Reclaim member, asking to meet him behind the warehouse that they currently occupy. The Reclaim member reveals that his name is Davon, and he needs help reconnecting with his boyfriend, Justin, who is a member of the tower. In exchange, he offers a key to the side entrance of a warehouse full of supplies, in which the only current opening to the entrance is infested with walkers. He gives the tourist a letter to deliver to Justin, and the tourist heads to the tower camp to deliver the letter. He finds Justin and hands him the letter, in which Justin gives him a response letter. A woman stops the tourist as he's about to leave, and explains that she knows what's going on, and wants the tourist to break the two up. offering him an alternative letter. Delivering either letter to Devon will result in him giving the tourist the key to the warehouse. The tourist makes his way to the warehouse and finds the second pump regulator on the second floor of the warehouse. Returning back to the graveyard, he calibrates it with the help of Casey and heads back to the churchyard to install it. After dealing with some tower troops attracted to the installation site, the second pump is installed. Casey reaches out again with a different request this time. He reveals that there were a few people with him in the bunker when the dead started rising, and he briefly mentions how they made a fucked up decision. They left him in the bunker to scout up Rampart High School, but haven't come back. So he asks the tourist to investigate, making emphasis to see if he can find what happened to his closest friend, Kenneth. Making his way to Rampart, the tourist enters the gym and finds the dead remains of Casey's bunker mates, Foster, Jess, and Trent, all with letters on their corpses. Foster and Jess's letters explain how they feel no regret for what happened outside the bunker, and how Casey was a coward. Trent's letter tries to justify that what he did was good, saying how he's a good person. The tourist eventually finds Kenneth in the school cafeteria, and he explains exactly what happened, while asking the tourist to tell Casey that it's not his fault. The 5 of them slaughtered dozens of people outside the reserve to protect their supplies, but Casey and Kenneth were not cool with it. Before the tourist leaves, Kenneth asks the tourist to put him out of his misery, to which he can either leave him to die and turn to a walker, or end his life right there, preventing him from turning into a walker. Returning to the graveyard, the tourist reaches out to Casey and tells him what Kenneth told him. Casey explains his perspective of the massacre, and after a little therapy session, Casey tells the tourist that he needs to get the reserve key from May. Now we cover May's portion of the story. In between helping Casey, the tourist raids multiple supply caches from the tower in the Ward, Old Town, and the Shallows, all recovering more information from May. In her letters to the tourist, she talks about the tower's deception, her husband's execution, and how she had to hurt someone in order to get the tower key, although it's not revealed who she hurt. The intel from the tower reveals that some of the tower members were part of a human hunting grounds, where they hunted humans for food to meet quota, and how they were forced to take the walk as a result. They also discuss possible scenarios in case the reserve is to be revealed. After dropping off the Shallows intel, May asks the tourist to meet her again in the courtyard. She explains that she's going to use the reserve being discovered as an opening to get as many people out of the tower as possible, as the higher-ups will be distracted by the chaos and the results of it. She tells the tourist that she will leave the key to the reserve in the drop-off location, and wishes him the best of luck. Tourist tells Casey about the key, and Casey reveals that he found the location to the last regulator in Bastion. Upon arriving at Bastion, something is clearly off. There are no walkers around, and what it is unclear as of right now. The tourist makes his way to the house surrounded by generators and light posts, and enters it. He finds the leader of the Reclaimed, JB, in one of the rooms on the second floor. He offers the first part of the regulars to the tourist, and explains he will hand over the dial after he has a little chat with him. JB reveals that he wants the tourist to completely flood the reserve, and that humanity is better off without the abundance of supplies it contains. After a little chat, he hands the tourist the code that will flood the reserve, and hands over the dial, bidding the tourist farewell. The tourist tries to leave, but is stopped by a group of tower members. Their leader introduces herself as the second in command of the tower, Georgia, and offers him a chance to clear up any bad blood with them. She makes a deal with the tourist to walk back in the house and kill JB. As a reward, the tower will stay out of the tourist's way when the reserve is found. From here, the tourist can either kill JB or assist him in fighting off Georgia and her army. Afterward, the tourist makes his way back to the graveyard, and Casey helps him calibrate the last regulator, and the tourist leaves to install it. He finds the reserve key in the coffin, with a goodbye letter from May, and makes his way through the catacombs to the Jasmine Park, uses the key, and installs the last pump. He gets back to the bus and tells Casey it's time to fire up the pumps. Casey activates the pumps, and St. Vincent's Church lights up in the distance, revealing the reserve's location for all to see. Casey is still unable to get out, and begs the tourist for help. The tourist makes his way to the churchyard and finds the dead corpse of May's daughter Ambra. A girl tucked away in a small shed reveals that her plan was to turn May and Ambra into the tower to be let back in, but it all went wrong, clearly. After this chat, Ambra's corpse reanimates into a walker, and the tourist puts her to rest. Fighting his way through the tower and reclaimed troops, which are fighting for control of the reserve, the tourist takes a side entrance to the church, and upon climbing in, he hears Casey's voice. The voice is coming from the pump controls, and Casey explains the pumps messed up, and the tourist needs to flood the armory to save his life. After inserting the access code, the tourist can choose to flood the comms room where Casey is, flood the armory where the supplies are, or flood both. If the tourist chooses to save Casey, he'll be ecstatic about you saving his life, and will meet you in the main area of the church. If the tourist decides to kill Casey, well...
Wait, what? What did you do? You fucking psychopath! I trusted you! I hope you burn in hell! You, no! No, not like this! Not like this!
Yeah, that's gonna be hard to live with. After making this decision, someone rings the church bell. Making his way to the main hall of the church, May can be seen telling the tourist to back off or she'll ring the bell again to draw walkers to the church. If Casey was saved, he'll try to stop her, and if you don't kill May before she rings the bell, she'll either ring the bell or Casey will shoot her if he's alive. After stopping May, Casey expresses his sorriness about the supplies, offering instead what's left of the stuff in his comms room, and revealing that he's planning to go north to get a fresh start. The comms room will have enough to fill an entire backpack worth of supplies, while the armory will have much more, including the AR-15 crafting recipe. After the tourist is done in the reserve, he gets on a boat and sails back to the graveyard, concluding the main game. But we're not done here. A week later, the tourist gets a radio message from the same channel he talked to Casey on.
The cash is here, in Dana's auto shop, like you said. We scored.
The tourist finds Bywater over on the tower troops and discovers a supply cache that's locked. The note next to it explains how the person on the radio ran off with a key and is hiding in the warehouse, with it being wired to explode if anyone stepped close to it. Upon killing one of the tower members, the tourist finds a key to the upper entrance of the warehouse, finds a key to the cache, opens it, and walks out with a bunch of supplies. The next message comes from a radio tower station, updating tower troops on a reserve cache they were able to nab at Rampart High School. Upon arriving at Rampart, the tourist finds the entire courtyard is swarming with tower troops. He finds the reserve cache after dealing with the troops, but it's mostly empty, with only one bandage and a note, and a weird key. Huh, I wonder what this is for. The note is from one of the tower troops, who plans to defect to the Reclaimed, and has hidden all the supplies in the library. The tourist finds the library, the supplies, but no sign of the defector. With these supplies is a note from a Reclaimed member who calls himself the Skinner, stating how Reclaimed troops will be shortly coming by to snatch up the supplies and pick up the defector. The tourist is able to evade the Reclaimed raid and returns home safely. The next transmission leads the tourist to the ward, where the cache has been claimed by the Reclaimed. The tourist doesn't care though. He fights his way into the medical hospital and finds the supply cache in the back warehouse area, and escaping before reinforcements show up. The next cache is in Bastion, in the same house where the tourist and JB had a little chat. Upon getting to the house where it is and finding the door where the supplies are, the door is locked, but in the house is a note that reveals that there is a set of explosives in the other house that might just do the trick. The tourist gets the explosives, blows up the door, and finds a new recipe for his flashlight, which upon taking it back and crafting it, upgrades it to a UV flashlight to reveal hidden messages. The next day, a new cache is discovered in Old Town, but a Reclaimed squad got to it first and took everything. Damn it. However, it's revealed that part of it is stashed away nearby. After following a series of clues using the new UV flashlight, they're able to find a picture, a note, and a strange key. Huh, another one of these. The next cache is discovered in Memorial Lane, and both the tower and Reclaimed are desperate for these supplies. Both sides have taken a house and are fighting for supplies. One key detail, however, is that there are multiple crates, and neither side can get close enough without getting shot to check them. The tourist raids the tower house, and finds a photo of the case where the supplies are, and after cleaning out the troops, snatches it up and gets the hell out of there before more reinforcements arrive. The tourist makes their way back to the bus, but as he gets closer, he hears something odd. He sees a tower and Reclaimed troop running away, and gives chase. Making his way back to Jazzman Park, he makes quick work of the squad of the tower and Reclaimed troops, and finds a lone survivor who wants to speak to him.
They had a common enemy to unite in. You.
The tourist is told that the troops stole all his scrap, and they stashed away some in the graveyard, and some in Via Corolla. The tourist finds the first part of his scrap in the entrance to the graveyard, and sets out for Via Corolla in the morning to get the rest. Via Corolla is swarming with tower and Reclaimed troops, and both sides have taken up camp in two houses to stop the tourist from taking back what is his. Fortunately, the tourist is a badass, and is able to fight his way into both houses, taking back his scrap, grabbing a bunch of other supplies, and finds the third and final strange key and the tower base. The next day, there's no reserve caches spotted, and from here on out, this is where the Aftershocks missions end. But it's not over yet. While examining the map in the bus, the UV light reveals scribbles pointing to Bastion. Making his way to Bastion, he enters the smaller of the two houses, and uses the UV light to find 3 keyholes in different spots. One under the bed, one in the bathroom, and one in the kitchen cabinet. Upon inserting the key, the washing machine moves on its own, and reveals a secret bunker. The tourist climbs down, and finds a shelter, but no one's been here for a long time. There's a strange set of armor with a tower logo on it, but something tells us whoever was living here isn't part of the tower. The tourist finds cryptic writing on the wall, and on the table, a postcard of New Orleans and a hit list featuring names we recognize, as well as our own. This was the hideout of the New Orleans Axeman. Not the original one, but someone imitating him to spread fear throughout New Orleans. This is the end of Aftershocks, and the end of the story of Saints and Sinners. The Axeman will be making his grand appearance in Retribution coming out on December 1st, and I can't wait to meet him face to face. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to my channel, as I plan to stream Retribution on December 1st and make a few videos on it. I wish you the best of luck in your trip back to New Orleans, and I will see you all when the dead start walking again.